Fire up, way back machine. Relive the classic video gaming scene. Sit down, enjoy the classic, cook some memory, courtesy of video game history.
Have you ever heard of edutainment? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? It's education that's dressed up as something fun. You see, back in the 1980s, apparently the best way to get kids to learn was to trick them into thinking they were playing a video game. Most of the time, this was a thinly veiled attempt that was seen right through. Here's looking at you, Mavis Beacon. Other times, they were more educational than fun. Examples would be like Mario's Time Machine, which wasn't fun at all. I mean, not even from a learning perspective. Speaking of Mario's Time Machine, that game was basically a ripoff of the best edutainment game of all time. Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego? Now, if you're not familiar with Carmen Sandiego, she is the villainous thief star of a popular game series in which you were tasked with capturing her. She's kind of like a criminal version of Where's Waldo, someone that is bad and very difficult to track down. You know, like Osama bin Laden. Okay, look, I'm just being honest. If you were to pick a top 5 all-time hide-and-seek players, Osama would probably have to be on there. Now, of course, when you play hide-and-seek against SEAL Team 6, when they do find you, they're likely to shoot you in the face. Now, Carmen may not be that level of villainous, but she is vile. Well, that's the name of her criminals organization, which included agents with silly names like Vic the Slick and Patty Larceny. In fact, the pun game all around is pretty strong in this one, good or bad. Now, the point of Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego is to track down all of the vile agents and eventually Carmen herself, with the aid of a time machine known as a chrono skimmer. You might be sitting there thinking, wow, this sounds a lot like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, which, I mean, it's the sequel, so hence the connection. Now, if you've ever played the original, you know it's an adventure detective story in which you travel around the world looking for bad guys. In this case, it's the exact same game, except for you add in the time travel element to the whole thing. What really made this game to me as a kid, though, was the style and the tone. This was a hard-boiled war detective story made for kids. I don't even know how that works. From the stormy night to the big office building and even the coffee, everything screamed classic detective story. I loved just wandering around the office in between cases and just exploring. There wasn't much to see in retrospect, but it was still a pretty cool quasi-open world element. Now, the element that really stood out to me about this game, though, was the speed, or, well, lack thereof. Where in most games you're trying to get through things quickly, in this one, there is no hurry. In fact, you pretty much had to take your time, do some research, and find out the answers. Now, admittedly, this style of gameplay isn't for everybody, but every now and then it's nice to have a change of pace, and actually it was kind of fun to get outside of the game to look things up. The world is simpler now. I mean, you would just Google the answers today and be done with the game in about 5 or 6 minutes. But back in the 80s and 90s, there was no Google. If you wanted to know the answers, you had to go look it up in an encyclopedia. You were lucky to have one of those at your house. So this actually meant traveling to like your public library to play a video game. I mean, that's kind of cool. On top of all that, you might learn something too.
Fire up, way back machine. Relive the classic video gaming scene. Sit down, enjoy the classic, cook some memory, courtesy of video game history.